right, I am super excited about our concept today. Again, this is another solo episode. I'm streaming live on my Facebook page, so if you guys haven't yet, please go ahead and join my Facebook page, Nicholas Spone. That's facebook.com/SponeTrain. You can get my latest live streaming podcast episodes. For those of you who are listening to this on iTunes, you can get it live on Facebook as well when they come out. So today our concept is about the word congruence. Now, congruence is one of my favorite words. I think it is one of the least talked about, yet most important concepts. Most people have no idea what it means. So we're going to get into congruence today. The real reason why you aren't living up to your potential. We're going to even talk about how women test for congruence and what they look for and why this is causing a lot of problems in your relationships. We have all kinds of stuff today, so I'm super excited about this concept. But first, last week I had Mike Mandel on, and one of the greatest living hypnotists. And every time I would ask him a question, he would answer with a story. And I remembered, I just realized that's the way we learn. And he's such a master of that, is telling stories instead of teaching concepts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start us off with a little story today. That's actually not about congruence. It's about something else. So I'm in a real estate mastermind group with Blair Halver, and he's going to be on the podcast. If that episode hasn't come out yet, it's good. You guys should listen to it. But his course, his mastermind group is fantastic. I'm having a lot of success. Kind of fell back in love with my real estate business based on the principles that he teaches. And we're on these calls every week, and I'm on this call listening to this guy. And he talked about how he did all the work. And, right as he was about to give up, he fired his virtual assistant. He was just going to say, this isn't for me. And then all of a sudden a deal came through and he made $20,000 on it. He was like, oh, I'm back in it. Well, another couple months went by. He wasn't having any success. He was working at it. And as soon as he gave up again, he fired his Facebook ads manager. And the moment he did that, another deal came in. And let's see. And so as soon as that deal came in, he's like, oh, I'm back at it. And lastly, he was going to sell his home or sell one of his houses. And he was having trouble selling it. And then all of a sudden, he said, I'm just going to list it with a realtor. And as soon as he did that, boom, he had a buyer come through and wanted to buy his house. And so I'm listening to these stories and I'm realizing the only thing that's stopping the success and abundance that he wants from coming into his life is attachment, right? And I did a podcast episode on this. If you guys haven't listened to it, I would say go back and listen to episode number 51, The Root of All Suffering. And attachment is the reason that we're blocking ourselves in a lot of areas. So the story about this guy who 3 different times, it wasn't because he quit that success came to him. It was because he finally just released that energetic attachment to an outcome. And when he was able to do that, the deal came, the sale came, all of these things came to him that had been waiting for him, but he had energetically been blocking it. So it wasn't the system. It wasn't that he wasn't taking the actions, but he didn't release his attachment to an outcome. So I have a meditation on YouTube, attachment, how to release your attachment, and that episode number 51. So this stuff is so important to your success, yet we never learn it. So learn how to release that attachment to your outcome, enjoy the process, and things will flow naturally to you. So that's not necessarily consistent with our topic today, but that's an important story about how these principles show up in our daily life. And this just happened last night. So I wanted to share that with you. All right. So let's get into congruence. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what is congruence. We're going to talk about what that word means, how congruence applies to my antenna theory of emotions. We're going to talk about where you may be lacking it, how to get it consistent in your body, how to be congruent in your life, and then how to use congruence to influence people. And if you're not a congruent person, which we'll talk about what that means, you're not going to be able to influence people to the level of your potential. And again, stay till the end because we're going to talk about why women use congruency tests on men and how to pass them with flying colors. Well, maybe anyway. That's a tricky one, but we'll get into why it happens and you'll be able to recognize it now. So, all right. If you haven't yet, again, follow the Facebook page, and I would love a podcast review. I've gotten messages from a lot of you on, different episodes that you guys love them. That's exactly what you needed on that day. If you haven't given me a review on iTunes yet, I would absolutely love that. I would be honored because that's how my message spreads. So if you can, go to iTunes, leave a review, leave an honest review, some good feedback. I would absolutely appreciate that and love that. All right, so I was at a Tony Robbins event earlier this year, and Tony's talking to this woman, and we're doing a section on overcoming limiting beliefs. And he says, okay, what was your old belief? And she says, well, my old belief was that I couldn't do all the things that I wanted to do because I was a woman. And Tony said, okay, well, what's your new belief? And she said, my new belief is that I can do anything. And if you can see this live, I'm shaking my head no. She said, I can do anything, while vigorously shaking her head no. Because in her system, that belief, her words weren't congruent with her internal state. So she didn't really believe what she was saying, and that showed up in an incongruency in her body language. So when your words and your actions are doing different things, that's called being incongruent. Or when your words and your body language are doing different things. Or when your words and your energy level, the vibe that you're putting out. So that's what being congruent is that every single part of you, all of those factors of antenna theory that I teach are consistent, are congruent, are lining you up energetically the same way. So think about when you're tuning your antenna in your vehicle, you're changing stations. When we're in between stations and we're kind of getting that mixed signal, that's what being incongruent is in your body. You have this energetic resistance because you're not really tuned into one station or the other, right? Maybe you're in a depressed state and you're trying to get into a confident state. So you change your body, but your self-talk stays depressing. So my body is confident, my self-talk is depressing. Again, that's incongruent. So it's not you're gonna change your body language. You're like, why don't I feel confident? I'm doing the stuff Nick taught about, changing my body language, standing tall, smiling. It's because you're not doing it congruently with all of the factors that affect your antenna, that affect your energy, right? So we're using all of these to tune in to an emotional station that's empowering. So we'll go over real quick just the factors that affect our state, based on my antenna theory, the little knobs you can turn to change your energetic resonance and your emotions. So the 4 factors of body language: your breathing, your posture, your facial expressions, and your movement. So all of those you want to be congruent. And the next one is the words that we say. And I just did an episode on that. So you can go back and listen to that one. That's our self-talk and the words that we speak out loud. So we want those to be congruent with our body language. The pictures that we make in our head, if we're speaking that we're going to have success, but we're picturing ourselves failing, we have pictures of our goal being way off in the distance or massive in size and overwhelming. Even though we're speaking that we want that success, we're not going to feel it. So our body language, our words, the visions we create, our lifestyle. Again, if you do all the things right, but you're not getting enough sleep, your body's going to get run down. If you're not eating well, if you're not staying hydrated, you're going to drink enough water, you're going to die, no matter what all the other things do. So those lifestyle choices are also important. And then lastly, the people you spend your time with. If you do everything else right, but you're hanging out with a bunch of lowlifes who are lazy and aren't ambitious, you are going to start to resonate with them. Remember, as humans, we always want to connect with the people we're around. So we will get into rapport the more time that we spend with them. And if you do that, you're doing everything else right, those people are going to pull you back down. So we want the people we spend time with, our actions, our beliefs, our language patterns, our body language, we want them all to be consistent, congruent, and aligned, taking us in the direction of our dreams. Does this make sense? All right, let's see if we have any comments since we're doing this live. Janet Crane, the tree lady. I did an episode with her a while ago. She's amazing. Okay, so I hope that makes sense that that's what congruence is. Now, again, if you're feeling depressed and you want to feel confident, energetic, and passionate, the way to do that is to change all of those factors. And if you change all of those factors, your system, your endocrine system, your nervous system will not be able to feel depression. So if you stand tall, you smile big, you breathe deeply, and you move quickly and passionately, that enough should do it. But then if we make sure we change our internal dialogue, we change the words that we're speaking, we're picturing ourselves successful, we're practicing that, we're visualizing that. We're spending time with people that are lifting us up, that are ambitious, that have great energy. and we're doing all the things that affect our lifestyle, so we're exercising, we're eating right, we're sleeping well, we're doing all those things, you will not be able to feel depression. So generally I know, and it's kind of like whack-a-mole sometimes. If you guys ever played that game at the arcade as a kid, where you hold the mallet and the moles pop up and you try to hit one. And they're always coming from different spots. So I know with me, anytime I feel in a lower state, overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, I look at the list and I'm like, okay, which one is incongruent with how I want to be? I'm like, okay, my body language, all right, that's good. The pictures I'm making, that's good. The people I'm spending time with, that's good. Oh, it's the self-talk. That's what I need to shift. Or man, everything's great. I just had a beer last night. And that beer, that alcohol in my system is bringing me down. And that's why I don't drink anymore, because everything else could be great. But if I go have a couple beers, the next day my thought patterns aren't congruent with who I think I am. So I cut that out, because there's nothing that feels better than being congruent energetically in your entire system. So when your thoughts, your feelings, your actions are all in alignment, they're all congruent with your higher self, nothing feels better. That's when you're free. It's when you're free to be yourself. That's when there's no inhibitions. That's when the energetic signal that you put out is clear and you move through life in flow and seamlessly. It's when we have these doubts that muddles our antenna, right? So that's what congruence is. All the parts of our antenna are saying the same thing. We're putting out the same signal to the universe. Our actions, feelings, and beliefs are all the same. So if you're in a state that's not consistent, again, figure out which one of those factors of the antenna theory that you can just tweak. Well, maybe I just need to, sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm catching myself and I'm breathing really shallow and I start to feel anxious and I'm like, oh, my breath is not congruent, right? And so I'll just go in and change my breath and then that'll clear it out. But we have to have everything aligned. And sometimes when we're in a lower state, it takes massive action. We have to overdo everything. That's when if I'm in a low state, I'm changing my body, I'm moving my body powerfully, I'm yelling incantations, and that will start to change the energetic signal in your body, and you will start to be congruent with the direction of your goals. Okay, so Amy Cuddy she had a talk on power poses, and this was really influential for me when I heard it the first time. So if you stand big and you take up space and you stand tall, she has the Wonder Woman. I'm doing the Wonder Woman with my hands on my hips right now. And in body language, taking up space is confidence. So if you take up space, you will feel confident. So in Amy Cuddy's research, she found that by standing tall for 2 minutes, people were more likely to take risks, their stress levels went down, they were more outgoing, they were more confident. And this all shows up hormonally in the endocrine system, which is exactly everything that I teach, right? So just by changing your posture, you will change your emotional state. And you guys already know this. However, what happened is a few people came through, a few researchers, and they said, we're going to check this claim. And what they did was they found either that it was total BS, that it didn't work, or they found that it was inconclusive. So they did this research, they had people come in and stand, tall and powerful, and they said, well, no, that doesn't change your emotional state. And so here's the factors that they didn't understand. First of all, your beliefs create your reality. So if somebody goes in to a this is my problem with quote unquote science, is when somebody goes in to do research with a bias or with a belief, they're going to do everything they can to confirm that bias. It's called confirmation bias, right? Our beliefs show up in the world. We create our reality with our beliefs. So if someone goes into a research project saying, well, changing your posture doesn't change your emotions, that's what's going to show up in their scientific research. They're going to find ways to confirm it. So that's what I think they did. The other thing that they did is they didn't control all of the variables that affect our state. They didn't make sure that these people standing tall and confidently, they didn't make sure that they were congruent. So when people stand in power poses, if someone was breathing shallow, if they were focusing on what they didn't want, if they had a scowl on their face, if they were creating pictures of something terrible happening to them, it doesn't matter what their body language was doing, they would feel stress in their system. So even if you just stand tall and breathe shallow, those two things are incongruent, right? One is saying I'm stressed out, one is saying I'm confident. So that is an incongruent signal in your body, and you won't send out that confident vibe. You won't be able to access your true capabilities. So it's no wonder that they had inconclusive evidence, because they didn't control all of these variables that create congruence, right? And so now you know all these variables, they didn't know that. So we can look at that quote unquote scientific research and say, wow, they were pretty short-sighted because all they did was change the posture, but there's so many different variables that affect our state. And that's what you guys are already familiar with. And now you can make sure, like playing that whack-a-mole game, that you just go down the list. What's my breathing? How's my breathing? What's my face doing? How are my facial expressions? How's my posture? How's my movement? Am I standing still? Am I moving in a way that energy flows through my system? Am I hanging around with amazing people? Is my diet clean? Am I alkalized? Am I drinking water? Am I getting enough sleep? What am I focusing on? What are the pictures I'm creating? How am I talking to myself? You guys know, when these are congruent, you are going to be unstoppable. And again, this just takes practice. It takes conditioning. It takes training. And when just by changing your body, you can start to change all the other factors and become congruent. And that's why I taught body language first, because I think it's the most powerful and the fastest way to shift into a congruent state. So when you have all of those things dialed in, and you practice this over and over, and you're just running through the list in your head, I have a resource on the Spohn Train members area. So if you go to spohntrain.com and you click access the members area, it's a free resource. It's all of the variables of the antenna theory. Print it out, put it on your refrigerator, because you want to know where you're incongruent. Because if you can get back into that congruence, you're going to be a powerful energy. You're going to send a powerful signal to the universe, and you're going to attract what you want consistently. Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich says that every moment, something like this, I'm going to paraphrase, every moment in doubt, every moment in disbelief sends a signal through all of intelligent substance, and it pushes things away from you. So every time you're in an energy that's not congruent with what you want, you're pushing things away every single moment in doubt and disbelief. So you have to control those thoughts, control that focus, control that self-talk in a way that makes you a congruent person. And that shows up on the outside. Now, how do we influence people? Well, if you're not congruent, people pick up on that. So they'll either notice it in your body language, they'll notice it in your tone, in the words that you say, in the way that you move your body. They'll notice it in your actions. And people aren't influenced by incongruent people. Remember, my model of hypnosis and influence is rapport, certainty, and focus. So if you're incongruent, you're lacking certainty. So congruence and certainty are almost the same thing. If I'm very certain of something, my body language, my language patterns, my words, my actions, they all are consistent. They're all congruent. If I don't have that, if I say, yeah, I'm confident and my tone is down and I'm talking slowly and my body's hunched over, we're going to go beat this team. No one's going to believe me. I'm not going to be able to influence them because I'm not congruent. Remember, certainty. Whoever is the most certain in a rapport situation wins. And you're not going to be certain unless you have congruence with your words, your body, your actions, and your beliefs. Mike Mandel, again, who I just interviewed last week, has a model of hypnosis, and it's a triangle. And it's intent, so your intention, congruence, and confidence. So these are the three sides of his hypnotic triangle. You go in with an intention, and then you're congruent with that intention in your system. You're congruent in your beliefs in yourself, and you're confident. And so all that shows up in your body language. And when you have those three things aligned, then you're a great hypnotist, and your hypnotic work is very impactful. And then the last factor of that triangle, in the middle, he has calibration. So you must make sure that you're always calibrating the other person. And that's reading their cue. Really what that is reading their cues to know if they're congruent or not. Because when I do hypnosis with somebody, I want to check my work. So I'm going to say, if I work on someone that's got a phobia of flying, we'll say, all right, now put yourself back in that plane. I just want you to imagine it. And we're checking our work. And I want to see, maybe they say they're comfortable, but their breathing picks up, or their skin turns red, or they show signs of stress in their body. Then I know, because their words and their body are incongruent, I know my work didn't stick, and we have to go back and do some more work. So we're always looking, if someone says, yeah, I feel really good about this public speaking that I have to do. Thanks for the hypnosis. I know in their tone that they really mean that. They're really going to go out and do well. So we're always calibrating, looking for congruence. And even if you don't think you are. We're always calibrating those around us. And men, I have some bad news. Women are so much better than men at calibrating. Because again, women are socially more skilled than us. They have more neural connections between the hemispheres of the brain. The social parts of the brain that notice body language cues are much more sharpened from just years of evolution. And so women pick up on this stuff. They know incongruencies instantly and automatically, which ties us really well into our next point as to why women test men and what they're looking for. So when women test men, they're looking to make sure that a man is congruent with his values and doing what he says he's going to do. So a woman wants to make sure that if a man says he stands for something, that he stands for something. And so she's going to test him. And this might come across in a number of ways, and women probably don't even know that you do this. If you understand that you're testing your man, you are way ahead of the curve, and you are very self-aware, because most women have no idea. But they'll feel this subconscious urge to test you or to go against you. And what they're looking for is for proof that you can take care of her, proof that you're consistent with your values, proof that nobody's going to influence you off of who you say you are. So if you say you're going to get something done, and then she wants to go to the beach, she's probably testing you. And then when you say, no, listen, I said I was going to get this done, I can't go against my word, she might test you even more. She might throw a fit. And she's just testing your resolve, testing how congruent you are inside with your beliefs and your values. And then at some point, she's going to know how strong you are, and she's going to love you even more. She's going to feel safe around you. What happens most of the time is that women will do that. They'll start to get upset, and then men will be like, they'll give in, right? And they're giving up on their values, on what they said, on what they took a stand on, and it shows incongruence. So if a woman picks up that you're incongruent, if you say you're confident, but you don't act confidently, if you hesitate, right? If you say, I'm going to create this business, and then you hesitate to take the action, she's not going to feel safe, and then she's going to test you even more. So it's so important. But what she really wants is she wants you to be congruent. And sometimes that means saying no to her. Women have told me that when a man says no, it makes me feel safe. It makes me feel really good about his resolve and his values. I know we're never taught this, right? Now, sometimes, this is where it gets tricky. Sometimes a woman actually needs you to do something. And sometimes she just has this want. And it's knowing the difference. It's knowing when you're being tested, knowing when she's looking for congruence, and then being able to say no if something's not congruent with you. Being able to say no if you've committed to something else. And not being a tyrant about it, but being congruent with who you are, with your values, in your body language, your actions, your words, your focus, your beliefs. All of those things aligned, and then your relationship is going to get so much better, because that's what a woman wants. That's what I think anyway. Maybe it's all made up anyway, right? You are free to disagree with me, but that's what I believe we are wired to look for, is congruence in people. Now, being incongruent is often used humorously, right? What is sarcasm? I remember in the movie Mighty Ducks as a kid when the team got in trouble, and Gordon Bombay, the coach, walks in and he goes, do you guys know what sarcasm is? And one of the kids goes, no. Because his words and his tone were incongruent, it's funny. When we're incongruent intentionally, it's really funny. Sometimes I'll say, oh yeah, my friend's going all the way to the top, and I'll put my hand in a downward motion, like I'm pointing downward. And that's incongruent. Or I'll say, yeah, I would love to go to that, while shaking my head no. And again, that's incongruent. My friend Mark Yagi, who I've had on the podcast, he does this thing where he goes, if he makes a mistake on something, he'll go, man, I am such a loser. But he has this big smile on his face. He has great physiology. It's like great energy around it. And it's the funniest thing, because he obviously doesn't mean it, because his words are inconsistent with everything else that he's displaying. And so that incongruence, when used intentionally, is humorous. Go see a comedian sometime, and they use these principles a lot. So I think that covers it for this episode. Let me see if we have any comments. Yeah, we got a few people in here. Amazing. All right. So again, go out Notice this in yourself. Where am I not congruent? Actually, the better question, the more useful question is, how can I be more congruent? How can I align my physiology, my breath, my focus, my language patterns, the pictures I'm making, the people I'm spending time with? How can I make sure all of those are congruent with who I want to be? How can I live in an energy every day that is congruent with my goals, my outcomes? Because if you're in that state of total congruence, your goals will just happen instantly. The reason you haven't accomplished your goals is because they're not congruent with you. You're not sending out a signal that's attracting them, that's resonating with them, because one of those factors of your antenna are not tuned in. You're incongruent somewhere. Find that incongruency, fix it. This is like the heart of everything that I teach. And again, there's nothing that feels better than being congruent with who you truly are. When your words, your actions, your thoughts, your physiology, your lifestyle all line up towards that higher purpose, everything in life just kind of flows and you feel amazing. The people you attract are going to change your life. So I hope this was useful. Again, if you, to get the resource on the antenna theory, go to sponetrain.com and then click on access the members area and you'll get that handout for free. Again, I would love a podcast review. That would be a huge compliment to me. I'm very excited. We have some great guests coming up in the future. So stay tuned and thanks for listening.